Let's get started. Welcome to the product spotlight of our first 2024 release. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. My name is Amber Ledesma, and I'm a customer success lead at CentralReach. Let me introduce our hosts and moderators. We have a wonderful group of people hosting today with a new format. We have Maddie Schilling, Associate Director of Product Practice Management, Yuki Lamb, Director of Product Data Analytics, and Jeet Badwal, Associate Director of Product Clinical and Mobile. Our agenda today shares enhancements we've been working on to improve your overall experience and workflows in CentralReach. We'll review a few of our favorite 24.2 enhancements, a 4.10 mobile release recap, and then a quick preview of what we're working on for our April release 24.4, with questions being answered throughout. Specifically, our 24.2 enhancements are partial payments, save signatures part 2, manage connections, and ABI new dashboards and updates. Hosts, thank you so much for joining us today. Maddie, you're first. We're so excited to learn more about what's coming up for CentralReach.
All right, thanks, Amber. So new in February, just going over a couple dates real quick first. So beta prod, if your organization is signed up to participate in beta production, that starts February 16th. Always be on the lookout for the email. There's always maybe a day or two that we may delay that for our own internal reasons. But the go live set for Thursday, February 29th. So my next slide. So as you saw, we introduced partial pay just as a formatting introduction. I'm going to introduce the feature and then I'm going to jump right into the application and show you how it works. So slightly different than the old format where we try to show you some screenshots and maybe they weren't the right size. So we're going to try live demo. So we'll see how that goes. So in the 24.2 release, this February release, organizations using Paragon or Paya, they're technically the same company, they just rebranded. We will now allow you to enable partial invoice payments at the invoice level. What does that mean? At the invoice level, you can say this invoice is partially payable. You can configure the minimum payment. Well, that will be default set to $20. And then when parents log in, make a partial payment, those payments will be allocated from the earliest service date going out. And now if I'm still logged in, I'm just going to jump right into CentralReach. So you'll navigate over to the billing screen invoices. Now for this demo, I've set up, quite a light test account just to go over what we talked about. But you'll see a couple of new additional fields. One is last paid date. The invoice amount is new. Amount paid that is new and is updated in real time. So if a parent comes in and pays $20, this $0 would come up to now $20. Balance due is just doing the math across from what was invoiced, what was paid. And finally, we get to these new buttons here where you have partial pay, payable, and visible. Right now, payable and visible are the toggles that you have in CentralReach. But if I come in here and I click partial pay, all three are automatically going to check. So then when the parent logs into the portal, this invoice for $200 is now partially payable. One other thing we added to the grid here is the ability to see the minimum amount. So the minimum amount by default from a systems perspective is $20. Now, if your organization has different thoughts and feelings about that minimum, that is configurable at the invoice level and in bulk. So you can come over here, select the invoice right here, click configure minimum payment, and if need be, you could say it's $30 or whatever your organization's general principles are. And so those are the main changes on the grid. The next one is changes to the parent portal. So we enhanced the layout of the parent portal for invoices particularly. We made it a little easier to read. The buttons are a little easier to find, and it's more responsive on mobile. So some of your parents may have noticed that if you log in with mobile, it's very difficult to find the download button on certain devices. We went ahead and addressed that. So now let's walk through actually making a partial payment from the portal. So here I'm already logged in to the parent portal. Parent will go to the billing screen here, just this billing icon. Here are the buttons I mentioned we redesigned. These just looked like links before. They actually take you to specific places. So we said they ought to make them look like buttons. Here you will see very similar to what you saw on the other screen. What is the invoiced amount? What is paid? What is due? What is the status? The parent will be able to come in here. Since this one is partially payable, they can come in here and write in as they see see fit up to the minimum. So if I put $1 in here, it's going to give them an error like, hey, $1 doesn't work here. But if they go ahead and put in $100, it doesn't think my email is valid. I disagree with them. We'll chalk that one up to fun with lower environments. Yeah, we'll call that. And then we'll pay with the saved card. You will click pay. Now this is again a test environment, so this might take a few seconds, but what I want to show here is once you pay this, this will be applied to the billing screen way back over here. And one of the other enhancements that I like that we added was this icon, this reference number right here used to be just plain text. Now it is a link, and I'll show you where that links to, but we saw here amount invoice $200, amount paid $100. If I click right here, I'm dropping you right to the billing screen. I'm showing you the whole context of that invoice, and then already pre-filtered so you can make any decisions you need to make. And you saw that $100 that I had inappropriately allocated to patient responsibility was paid by the client on the first service line. All right, next one. Save signatures part 2. So in the December release, we released save signatures, which allowed providers to create predefined signatures and then apply them to timesheets. In this next release, we are expanding that to be applied to notes and forms and session notes. Additionally, with that, we improved our user tracking. So when notes are signed, they're also logged in activity and user history, and it has all the usual bells and whistles. This user from this IP signed this document with this signature. I do want to call out that the attestation statement that released in part 1 does also apply to notes and forms, and I'll show everybody what that looks like in just a second here. So very quick recap. As an organization, I'm logged into the organization right now. Organization signature settings are somewhere in here. And this just allows you to configure the attestation statement. This is the statement that your providers will see and what is saved under what they're signing. So if you're signing a timesheet, that attestation statement is now part of the timesheet. Similarly, if they are now signing a note, that attestation statement will go under where they sign and will be part of the note. 2 options here allow you to do pre-configured signature. So think of any modern signature program where it allows you to pre-save a signature based on fonts. You can do that, or you can also save a hand-drawn signature. That is phase 1. Let me go back over here real quick so I can load up what this looks like in phase 2. Give me just a second. All right. And now I'm on an employee. I'm on employee Omar. Omar already has the signature set up. So if I were to go to my signature settings, we will see Omar already has the signature set up. So in Omar's daily workflow, he's going to come to his calendar. He is going to start converting an appointment. Say the session already happened. He's going to go ahead and click new note. In the real world, he would do all the things he needs to do in this note, but we're just going to come down to the signature part. When Omar goes to sign, that save signature is going to pop up. It's going to show you, here's the preview of the signature. The attestation statement that the organization has set up will be viewed here. Click sign. You'll be, finish your note, save your note, and close it. It'll be applied to the document. Similarly, if your organization is utilizing mobile and session notes, we have updated session notes to similarly use from web the save signature. So let's say, for example, save signatures needed to be cleared from mobile and they had to do some edits. You'd come in, access your session note. When you click on your session note, your signature would be loaded. You have your signature attestation statement, and you'd be able to sign to finalize the signature. Some other nice things about the improved signature is the activity. So as we mentioned here, we are logging every time you electronically sign, what document you're signing, what the attestation statement was, what signature ID it came from, and importantly, the IP address of the user. Just some things to note: the only person who can utilize the safe signature is the employee, is the logged in employee. No one can apply your signature for you. Only you can do that. All right. Okay, last up on mine is the managed connections. So we had quite a bit of communication on this one. We did a full webinar on managed connections. We are now looking at the Go launch for managed connections. This is a redesigned page with the goal of making it a lot easier to see who's connected to what and how being what files you're sharing. We've also unlocked new enhancements. You can now edit connections. So instead of disconnecting and reconnecting to repair a few sharing parameters, you can do that without doing these giant bulk operations. And then a crowd favorite, we've added connection audit history. So anybody who comes in through a contact form will have a history of who they're connected to and how. Anybody at any time someone was connected or disconnected, they will have a record on how they were connected or disconnected in this new audit page. So I will jump right into that. Managed connections is same place it used to be, utilities and tools. You will note now, instead of having connect clients, connect employees, you'll see manage connections. And if you have permissions, you'll see audit log. Audit log is controlled by a new unique permission because it shows you both employee and client connections. It is its own permission. Manage connections, just to go through a real quick demo, just because time and whatnot. If you were to go and do a quick connection, you can search for a client. The first thing is we're going to show you is who Jimmy is connected to and what sharing parameters. So you see Elena has all the auto shares in Kinetic learning trees. If that were wrong for any reason, I could go in there and edit them and just start removing access. You weren't supposed to have that access, or potentially we only needed to give you read-only access. And one of the enhancements to this page, if you guys are currently in early access with managed connections, is the grid does not update in real time. Well, now it will. Now, trust the lower environment speeds, but you see here that this record is now processing. In our testing, this goes relatively quick, but you'll see that update in real time. So as we're processing through these records, you will see this go from gray to black. And then finally, the connection audit log. So again, controlled by a new permission, you have the ability to search by connect, disconnect, or update. You can pick a date range. You can pick you can filter by who started the connect or disconnect, who is involved, or I can just hit search and see everything for the last couple days. And in here, you'll see the complete transaction history of anybody who is created with a contact form that has automatic connects, or any user who came in here and did an update or a disconnect. You will see that in here. And in this grid, you'll see, access was removed with the X, access was given with the check, no change with the dash. All right, I'm going to pause right there. All right, Amber, what do you got for me?
All right. Would we be able to turn off partial payments if we want to or need to?
Absolutely. So partial payments is configured at the invoice level, so it is not on by default, similar to how you enable parents being able to pay invoices in the portal right now. There's a toggle for it. So if you don't turn it on, they won't have access to partial pay. And you can still give them access to pay only in full if you want to.
All right. Another partial payments question. Can parents access their portal on a device? And if so, can they pay from their phone or do they have to log into the web?
So the parent portal is, it's a web app, it's a website. So they can log into the parent portal on a mobile device or tablet, just as anybody can, and pay the invoice. Now they obviously have to enter their credit card information, but yes, they can pay from a, mobile browser without any issues.
The questions are flooding in. Awesome, guys. Thank you. Can we get saved signatures for caregivers like providers?
Caregivers like providers. I think I might need a bit more examples on that. So right now, Save Signatures is enabled for any employee who is logged into your platform. You can allow them to have a Save Signature. As long as they're the one logging in, they can have a Save Signature and they can apply it. We have not extended that outside of anybody who logs into the system.
All right, sounds like a feature request if you want that for caregivers. Will the connection audit log have special permission, or can all users who access connections access the log?
Yep, great question. It does have a special permission. That permission is only enabled into the admin group, which technically gets every permission in our system, because audit log shows you connects, disconnects for both client and employee records. It is a brand new permission, and you will get access to all audit within there, not specific to client or employee.
And a related question, does that history go backwards or does it turn on as of the release? Like, are you only going to see a history from that day forward?
Beautiful question. It is because we re-architected this, the history starts when the feature goes live on February 29th.
Excellent. One more question. Can you quickly show, Maddie, could you back up and show that toggle for partial payments? How do you turn that on and off?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's on the invoice screen.
Yep, it's on the invoice screen. So there's partial pay, payable, and visible. I can turn off partial pay. And let's say when you start a new invoice, they're all off. If I click partial pay, we didn't make you click it 3 times. We just turned them all on for you. But if, for example, you don't want to utilize partial pay right away, you can just do payable. And now it is available to the client in the portal, but only in full.
Excellent. One more. Our saved signature, sorry, no. What security is in place to make sure saved signatures are used accurately?
Yeah, excellent question as always. In design, we always, consult, uh, the highest authority when it comes to signatures. California has very particular e-signature rules, so does the federal government in each state. So our general philosophy is to do the most strict one. But in general, only the logged in person can apply their signature. We are capturing all the metadata of the user signing it. So what time they signed, what IP they signed it from, what their browser was when it signed it. And that is all easily accessible in the user activity for your organization.
So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this new dashboard, we're going to call it the client onboarding, as mentioned, aka waitlist management. Before we dive into the dashboard, let me walk you through how are we tracking everything and what logic are we putting in. First, for every single client that is in the CR system, we're going to start tracking when is the first assessment day and when is the first direct therapy day for ABA. And how we're going to do it is going to be based on the service code type and category that you set up for each of the service code. And we will have 4 status that we will be tracking for each one of them. First is not scheduled, scheduled, unconverted, and done. You may ask, how are we going to get all this information? Here is the logic. First, we're going to look at your billing entry and see if any of those code is billed and when is the first day. And if we find anything, then it is a done status. That means you have done an assessment or a direct therapy. And if we couldn't find anything in the billing entry, then we will go into your appointments and then see if anything's scheduled. If we see anything scheduled in the past, that means it's unconverted. Because we can't really say for sure it's being done. It could be it got canceled, but then it just haven't officially be canceled on your schedule. If we see anything in the future, then we'll say it is scheduled. And if we don't see anything, then it's not scheduled. And this is how we come up with the 4 status on each side. As you do the math, there's like 16 different combinations. We are not going to give you 16 combined status. And then we consolidate them into 7 to give you a sense in terms of like where is your new client as they move through the journey with your organization. Do they have their first assessment? Do they not have it, but is it scheduled? And then same thing for the therapy. And with all this data stamp that we're going to start capturing, the other great things that we'll be able to do is to keep track of how long does it usually take for you to get your new client into your pipeline? Like when is the time from the time of like creation to the first assessment, or from creation to your first direct therapy, or even in between. Once you get your first assessment, how long does it take for them to actually get their first direct therapy and be able to just like measure? And of course, you'll be able to see this based on different payer, different location. So let's go into the next slide. Then I can kind of show you a quick screen of the dashboard. So the dashboard is going to be in two parts. The first part is all about like, hey, for any specific day range that you select, let's say for the last year, you have 381 new clients in this case. How many of them start the direct therapy? How many of them don't? So in this case, you see 46 of them have already started their direct therapy, but then the rest, they haven't really started or schedule anything. Then you will move through, be able to look at like anyone that is with the 7 status that we mentioned earlier. And just to a quick reminder for everyone, all our dashboard is interactive. So you can click into any place. Let's say, oh, I want to look at the unconverted therapy. So you click into it, and then we'll be able to show you all the line item detail and show you exactly which clients, the one that don't have their therapy converted, and what is the day of the therapy. Does it make sense it's not converted, or it's already a month ago? So most likely it's just the appointment didn't get canceled. And then in part 2, then we're going to start looking at like the metric in terms of the timeline. How long does it take? So we have like the 3 timeline that we mentioned earlier, and then be able to measure them on average. And then again, you'll be able to look at this by the location. So you can see location by location, if certain location take longer, or even by payer, because like certain time that certain payer is particularly more difficult to get the authorization done. So it will potentially delay how long does it take for the client to come in. So the goal of this dashboard is really to give you a much easier and quicker way to manage your wait list. And hopefully, as many people mentioned in the earlier poll question, that like, what they find most challenging is just literally be able to track their wait list. So this should be able to like help you to have a really clear sense where everyone is sitting, and then like how they are moving through your pipeline. And if you have any question, feel free to send it to me. We will, at the end of the ABI session, we're going to like take all the questions and start going through them. Okay, so with that, next, little bit high level, starting in Q4 last year, we start doing a lot more dashboard in the financial area. So you will see the next few dashboard is all about, RCM on the financial side. The first one I'm particularly excited is appointment-based revenue projection, aka this is on short-term revenue projection. So what we are doing here is we use your scheduling information, so all the appointment that you have scheduled, and using the information in the appointment based on the authorization. Again, it needs to be a valid authorization. So if your authorization is already expired, we don't use that. And then also use the service code. With these 2 pieces of information, we basically know exactly which fee schedule should we go to, because we have the payer, we have the service code, and then we're able to grab the agreed charges from there, and then put that into a matchup with every single appointment that you have on your schedule. And then, of course, we'll exclude anything that is canceled or deleted, and be able to give you a high level sense based on, if nothing changed, based on what you have scheduled so far, what will be the expected revenue. In the case that if in your fee schedule that is modifier, since you couldn't put any modifier into the appointment, we will use the lowest rate. So if you have a modifier, like 3 different modifier for the same code, we'll use the one that with the lowest rate. We will rather to be conservative than in any way overinflating the projected revenue here. And so, the other big thing is like a lot of the advanced BI customer has been asking is to basically be able to look at billing data and scheduling data together. So this is the first time that we are bringing in the billing data, in this case, the agreed charges, aka kind of like your revenue, into the billing cube. So be able to really look at like, in the future, potentially what you could make for the revenue. This is particularly good, especially if you're going through any changes. Like if you have a payer mix changes, you're opening up a new location, you hire a new provider. A lot of time, the big question is, how is that going to impact my revenue? And in so many cases, then you need to wait for the timesheet to be converted and then to bill it and then to get the money back in order to really know. So this is kind of a quick way, a much earlier way to give you an insight into what could potentially impact in terms of your revenue. And then let's go into the next one. Okay, so continuing the theme on the financial side, one of the newer dashboard that we have released back in December is what we call the no payer payment, which is AKA the denial, or like where did my money go dashboard. So this dashboard mainly focusing on showing you all the ELA that have zero payer payment. So that means you didn't get any payment from the payer. And usually that can only go into two buckets. Either it is total patient liability. So they say it is a co-pay, deductible, co-insurance. So that's why they're not paying. Or it is a denial. So this will give you a really good sense in terms of like, where are you getting denial? What kinds of denial code are you getting from each of the payer? One of the issue that, the current version have is it will show you all the ERA, so all the denial. But the issue, the problem is you could be looking at a denial that is from a month ago, but by now you actually already recover it. So sometimes it's a little bit hard to see like, okay, which one is really outstanding right now. So that's why we're going to introduce a new filter here, which you will have the chance to look at like, okay, I only want the latest ERA. So meaning like the one that is still current and you haven't recovered. Then it is great to use it as more like a work list style to look at like, okay, where, how many denial do I need to follow up? But then if you want to look at a little bit more overall denial trend and say like, okay, how many denial am I getting? And, what is the top denial code? Then you will want to look at everything, no matter you recover it yet or not, because at some point they are denials and you want to include them, especially if you need to have a conversation with the payer rep by any chance and to say like, hey, we start getting a lot of denial on our 97153, what is going on? So those will be really good information to have. And then the next one, the last new dashboard that we have is around accounts receivable. As many of you know, we actually already have one receivables report in the practice management module. And for that one, it is still a very, very good dashboard with real-time data, especially if you want to look at like the work list specifically for each of the aging bucket for your AR was all the outstanding balances. This dashboard, where it really shines is to give you a more high-level trend and pattern. You will be able to like slice and dice information in any way that you want. You can look at it like by different service lines. So if you are multi-discipline, you can look at ABA services versus your OT versus your PT. If you have more as a percentage, a higher account receivable in certain area, you can look at it by location. You can even look at it by different pay a lot easier. You can look at which client is owning you the most patient responsible balance as well. The other new metric that we're introducing with this dashboard is the AR days. So what it really means is trying to give you an estimation on average, how many days does it take you to collect your AR? Or the other way to look at it is how many days of revenue is sitting in your AR that you haven't collected yet. So it is a great metric that to monitor in a high level to definitely impact your cash flow and then be able to look at how you're managing it right now on your AR. And again, this is something that you will be able to look at it by the service line, you will be able to look at it by location or payer. So with this two report, like, this dashboard and then also the original receivable report is to go hand in hand together and be able to show you the big picture as well as the individual line item. Okay, so that kind of wrap up the high level enhancement that we will have for ABI in February. One quick reminder, we are going to launch a new webinar series in ABI. Starting next Tuesday, we'll have a first session focusing on supervision dashboard. So basically in each of the webinar session, we are going to pick a topic and then walk you through all the ins and outs about the dashboard that we have, how to navigate it, some of the use cases that we have seen our customer are using the dashboard, what is the kind of success story here, and then also give you an insight, tips and tricks into like how to best navigate or like how the calculation is being use right now. So definitely register for it, share with your colleague. And if you cannot make it, we'll definitely record it. So do still do the RSVP, and then you will get a link to the recording afterward. Okay.
Yuki, we've got a couple questions.
Go for it.
Can you talk a little bit about if a customer has data warehouse but not ABI, is all of the raw data that you would need to build these reports for yourself available in data warehouse, or are there any values in ABI not in data warehouse?
Got it. Yep, very good question. So in terms of data warehouse, you will have all the raw data, meaning like, in this case, we look at all your billing information, and then we also look at all your scheduling information. So you have all the raw data to do the kind of matching and the logic. But ABI will be kind of the unique place that will do all the logic for you and then do all the matching. So in general, for data warehouse, you will get all the raw data, but you will need to then massage the data yourself and then be able to do all the logic and find all the information. While on ABI, since a lot of them, they don't have the kind of like the IT resources, so we do all the massaging already with the new cube and then with the new information and be able to report on it. So that is kind of the main differentiation between the two products.
Great. And then about that waitlist dashboard, is that only applicable to ABA, or could it also work for speech and OT?
So for version 1, it will be only applicable for ABA. We specifically focus on ABA, understanding it. For a lot of the practice, it's almost like each of the service line have their own swim lane. So the first one that we're going to do is ABA, because we have seen like a lot of the practice. What happened is a client could start on OT, PT first while they're waiting for ABA spot to open. So we want to kind of do individual swim lane. So phase 1 only ABA, but we definitely have the intention to add a service line in the future.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so we're going to launch our next poll about CR Mobile. And then Jeet will do a recap of where we're at with mobile right now.
Another 10, 15 seconds. All right. Okay. Yeah, so it looks like we have a mix. Some that are using, some are interested, and then we have most of them, not most, but I would say about half that are not. So this will be a good refresher in terms of where we are with mobile. So just a quick recap in terms of last year, we've done a tremendous amount of enhancements to the mobile app, where the user interface is practically completely redesigned. And we've added several features that we've heard in terms of what are needed from end-to-end RBT workflow perspective. So just to highlight a few major ones, one of the things that was also noticeable was the place of service is an important element when you're filing claims. So this workflow now basically has the RBTs verify what's the place of service that's coming right from the appointment record on mobile, on web. If not, they can choose, and it's all based on what you have set up. So that's part of this workflow. And we also have a way to now select modifier when it's applicable. So if you do have one-to-many relation, that'll go there. The other major piece that we enhanced was around the appointment timers. To simplify the workflow, what we've done is behind the scenes, we will manage the session timers and the appointment timers. However, the user will only see one timer, and it's just basically a banner that goes across the app. Everywhere you go, it's there. It tells you when it's 10 minutes left, for example, or when the session time is over, and it's all based off the scheduled duration. Doesn't stop the RBTs from doing any, doesn't stop them midway or anything like that, but it just gives them a reminder in terms of where they are within their session. And then if you go to the next one, and a completely redesigned data collection screen. Here, there's a bunch of different things that we've done in terms of the look and feel. There's a lot of design thinking that went into this in terms of the green meaning plus, the red meaning minus, and this kind of trickle down all the way across. You can easily also navigate between your pinned items and your trials at the top, so that especially on an iPad, you'll actually see 3 different pinned items because they'll expand over. And we're going to continue to enhance the screen as well. If there's trials that are not have minimum met, there's a good indicator that shows you that. Trials that are met, it will show you that. ABC data collection, etc. So among all this, right, this is now fully available. It's available to everyone. And I would encourage you to download, take a look, and we have a lot more interesting things coming in the next release as well. All right. So yeah, speaking of coming soon, here's also a sneak peek into what the team's been working on, some of the upcoming features. So for clinical and mobile specifically, clinical, we get from time to time this request that a comment was added by mistake, and then that had HIPAA info, and then you have to fill in this form, and there's like a long process that we have to endure on our side to get that comment removed from the learning tree. So what we'll do is the org account now will have this ability where they can manage those comments directly from the learning tree. So that's coming soon. That's more of an admin function. It's much needed, and it'll cut down the time that you have to spend with back and forth with our teams here. And we're also working on some cool AI generative session summaries, which will be in beta. And this will really, the idea here is really, the data is being collected on mobile. We will take that data, help summarize it in a nicer format that it's easily understandable, and there's a lot of science and everything behind this as well with our Carry product. Maddie, if you want to talk about
awesome.
practice management.
Thanks, Jeet. So for practice management, this is really kind of looking at 2 of the things I want to get done in the first half of this year. One of them is contact form enhancements. That could mean a million things, but what I mean specifically is expanding how connections work with connecting new clients to existing employees, or potentially expanding the sharing settings between employees on the contact form itself. So really just having that contact form solve all your connection problems up front, best to your own design. And the second one is the SSO to CR Institute. So anybody currently using our learning management system knows that they have to maintain 2 different logins, and it's not a unified experience. And what we would like to see is you log into CentralReach and you can get right into LMS and right back to CentralReach without having to remember multiple logins. So that's something we're looking at for the first half of this year.
And for advanced BI, as mentioned, we continue our quest on the financial side. So we already have one dashboard diving into a little bit on the denial side. And we're going to have another dashboard that gives you even a more complete picture around all your claim health. So we're going to start tracking, for all your claim, what percentage have no response yet, what percentage full denial, partial denial, or no denial. And with that, we'll be able to then calculate the first time clean claim rate, and also be able to give you insight into how long does it usually take for you to get your first ELA coming back. No matter if with denial or not, this is crucial when it comes to your estimating your cash flow, and will impact a lot of your top line, bottom line. The other dashboard that we're really excited, the next two is all a little bit more on the clinical side. So the first one is all about parent training. So we want to build a dashboard that is centered around parent training, and we'll pull in your work information. So basically all your work hours, how many parent training have you done per provider, per client, and then pair it with scheduling information. So you'll be able to see what kinds of cancellation is having, and then going into authorization utilization. And then we'll also then dive into redoing or like restructuring some of our clinical data. And so the first path is just going to be kind of the data cube changes only, and the dashboard changes will come in the next release, which will be in June. And then the last one is just around authorization and be able to look at authorization based on the payer. So like, if you only want to look at the primary payer, so you're not double counting on some of the authorization hours from the secondary.
Great, guys, right on time. Thank you, team. That was amazing.